What's up, guys? Saf, you're on SuperSaf Speaks, and welcome to episode number 45 of the podcast with myself, your host, SuperSaf, and my co-host.
Thunder E from Border Work.
And we've got a jam-packed episode today. We're going to be talking about our experiences with the Galaxy A36 and A56, the iPhone 16e, some of Apple's newer announcements with the Air series, in particular the MacBook Air M4, which is a very interesting device for us, and also the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, which I currently don't have. So, end of on, we'll be talking about that mostly.
Yeah, that would be me. I'll be talking about it.
But anyway, we'll get to that. Let's initially talk about the Samsung Galaxy A36 and A56. Now, these are some of the most popular devices that Samsung makes, the A series. They sell a lot of these devices, in some cases more than the S series as well, in lots of regions. So we've had some hands-on time with the A36 and the A56. The A56, I've actually posted my full review. Now, overall, good devices. Design, you've got polycarbonate on the A36, so, a bit of a cheaper build, but you've got actually quite a premium build on the A56. They've got roughly about the same design. They are slimmer now, so around 7.4 millimeters down from 8.2 millimeters. And you've got Gorilla Glass Victus. You've got some variety of colors. I would say that the A56 has kind of muted colors. They're a bit flat, whereas the A36, a bit more vibrant, gives me that Note 10 vibe, and I do like those. They call all of the colors awesome for some reason. The displays are good, I would say. 6.7 inches AMOLED, 120 Hz, Full HD Plus resolution. They're brighter compared to last year. So we've got 1200 nits in high brightness mode, 1900 nits with the Vision Booster. And I can tell you myself, having tested this on a bright day in the UK, which is rare to find, they actually performed very well. Now, there is a chin, okay? And although the bezels are smaller compared to last year, we've got that chin at the bottom. Before I say what I think, what do you think of that chin? Does that matter to you?
No, actually, to be fair, when you just mentioned the chin, I was doubting if I remembered looking at the chin when I had my hands on. So to be fair, it doesn't bother me.
Okay, so it wouldn't bother me, but if you look at phones that are priced lower, and the most recent example comes to mind is the Nothing Phone 3A, which is starting at 330, right? When you compare that to this, that's got uniform bezels, no chin. So to me, it's like, okay, so it could have been achieved, right? Not the end of the world, okay? But just something there that's kind of a little bit annoying. Now, with the cameras, the A56 has the more superior cameras. So you've got a 12 megapixel selfie camera. Now, the selfie camera, I gotta say, very good, right? Really good, crisp selfies, great with portrait mode as well, that I found in my review. And also for video, they've really improved the video from the selfie camera when it comes to things like dynamic range. Very good. And that was something that I was definitely impressed with. They have certainly improved the selfie camera. Now, for the rear-facing cameras, okay, you've got a 50 megapixel primary camera on both devices. You've got a better sensor on the A56. And once again, very good images, good low-light images as well. And my favorite thing about the A56's camera, from the primary camera anyway, is that it's excellent for portraits. Portraits, I mean, edge detection, beautiful, right? And I was just like, man, this is very, very good. For a $400 to $500 phone, £400 to £500 phone, excuse me, very good. Now, there's a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, which is okay. It's 8 megapixels on the A36, which is pretty weak, but hey, it's just an additional camera there. But then they've got a 5 megapixel macro camera. It's like, come on, it's 2025. We do not need a macro camera just for the sake of saying that you've got triple cameras. It's like, come on.
Look, they've got the sensors and lenses hanging around in the factory. They got to use it.
That's what it seems like. Because I mean, what would make more sense, right, is to have a dual camera setup with the autofocus on the ultra wide camera, right? Yeah. So then you can actually get good macro shots, right? I'm not saying that they're bad macro shots, but come on, man. Why do we still have this? I think you're right. They've got lots of parts to like around. They just want to do it. Plus, they just want to claim that they've got a triple camera design. Now, the design has been updated. You've got a linear camera module rather than the separate rings that we've had from Samsung. Looks pretty decent. Have you been testing? You've not had a chance to test the cameras out yet, have you?
No, because
Damn.
it's not coming out in the US anytime soon. I mean, like it's coming out in the US at some point, so I don't have a unit, but I did play
Okay.
around with the device with the hands-on. I like the
Yeah.
build. I like the build quality of the device. I do like the colors of the 36 more because it's less muted,
Yeah.
compared to the 56. Some of the camera images I took while the hands-on, and some of at least I saw from Danny as well, Danny Wingate, looked pretty good. Like
Mm.
I think Samsung's image processing coming onto this device has really done a good job.
Yes.
Um, I haven't spent time with the processor, so I can't tell you anything about gaming with that 1580 Exynos, right? I believe that's the processor on there.
Yeah, 4 nanometer.
And
But
then the Snapdragon
Snapdragon
6
6 Gen 3.
Gen 3 for the 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing. Like in terms of performance, I mean, it's okay. In particular, the A56, which I've tested out more. Right.
Mhm.
You've got a larger vapor chamber, which is comparable to the S24 Plus.
Okay.
LPDDR5 RAM, pretty decent. Lots of improvements compared to the last year's Exynos 1480. So you've got a 12% NPU improvement, a 17% GPU improvement, and an 18% CPU improvement. But I mean, it's for that price range. Do we have other devices with better performance? I would say so. Like,
Mhm.
I think particularly in the US, you've got the OnePlus 13R with the 8 Gen 3, right?
Yeah.
Boom. Hands down, if performance is your thing, that's the one to go for. Now, granted, in the UK, it's priced higher.
Isn't it the same price or $100 more?
So it's $500 in the US. In the UK, it's a bit more. So it's about $650 in the UK.
Mm.
So that's the problem, right? So if it was in the US, then it's like, oh, it's easy. Just, just based on performance, I would go for that.
Yeah.
But I think so. Okay, so the sort of saving grace for Samsung is the software, right? Because they've got
Mhm.
One UI 7.0, and they're offering 6 generations of OS updates and 6 years of security updates, right?
Oh,
Now, if
that's
you're a
great for a budget phone.
and if you're a B2B customer, it's 7 years. Okay. Now, at this price, unless you get a Pixel, right? Which not a lot of people like, they're familiar with Samsung. They like Samsung's One UI. They prefer the image processing, etc. Then you're not going to get longer software updates on any other device at this price, right? It's just not going to happen. Okay. So that's something that I think they've really gone for. Now, you've got some AI features. I mean, you've got Circle to Search, which obviously is coming to a lot of Android devices, which is quite good. You've got AI Select, where you can, turn things into GIFs, wallpapers. You can also, if you select an address, it's going to take you straight to the maps. If you select a phone number, it'll take, pretty useful, right? Object Eraser. Okay, the way I described Object Eraser in my review was
I
it's
remember.
it's like cleanup on Apple Intelligence, which means it's not very good. It's okay. It's okay if it's a very clear, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, you've got a person in the background on a relatively easy sort of, something that's quite easy to remove. Yes, it's going to take that off. If it's something more complex, then it is night and day when you look at something like the Galaxy AI features that we've got in the S series, right? Okay,
Mhm.
which are right now, I would say, top of the league. They're doing really well. Now, the A56 does come with a few other additional features compared to the A36. So you've got Read It Loud, so it can just read web pages out loud for you. It's got Best Face, which, oh my God, this created some really, really funny looking results. It kind of took the bottom of my teeth off because it's using motion photos. So it's not actually using multiple photos. It's using the same photo. You have to have motion photo enable. So it's using the video and it's basically picking a frame from that and it's trying to enhance that. So it's not perfect. It might
Mhm.
make the best out of a bad situation, but in my testing, some of those ones, it's like, oh, bro, this is bad. But anyway, there's also auto trim. I mean, it's okay. It's not something I could see myself using. All right, one thing that I was quite happy with is the battery life, right? 5,000 milliamp hour battery, right, on both the 36 and 56. And that's comparable to the S25 Ultra. The flagship device, you've got a big battery. It's a bigger battery than what you've got on the S25 Plus. It's a much bigger battery than you've got on the S25. I mean, that's pretty good. And it's got faster charging supported, although in the UK, there is no charge included out of the box, right? So you've got 45 watts of charging supported. Obviously, there's not going to be any wireless charging. But then here's the thing. I know it's not out in the US, but in the UK, A36 starts at £399. So that's for the 256GB model. They're not doing 128. You can get 128 in other regions. The A56, 256GB, £499. Okay. Now, in isolation, I gotta say, that looks like a good deal. It's a pretty good all-rounder. It's got good cameras. You've got a good display. Granted, it's got a bit of a chin, but it's 120 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a good design and build, the A56 in particular, right? Now, the thing is, if you go onto Amazon, and this is something that I looked at in my review, right? You go onto Amazon right now, you can buy the S24 FE for £550 directly from Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, granted, it doesn't have the same size battery as the A56, right? But you've got the full suite of Galaxy AI features. You've got a much more powerful chipset. You've got triple cameras with a telephoto, a usable telephoto, not a useless macro camera, right? So then you think to yourself, for £50 more, should you not just get the S24 FE? Personally, I would just do that, right?
Yeah,
Now,
speaking of those prices, I just checked the US prices here. You can get an S24 FE 128 at 498 or 256 at 539. And then the S24 used or renewed, as they like to call it, you can get that starting at 434.
exactly. So now, even if you've got the S24, fair enough, the S24 Plus is more of the comparable version, right? How much is the S24 Plus going for? Maybe a little bit more. I would say not too much more, right? Even if you went for the 256 model.
Yeah.
And you're going to get, remember, and especially if you go for that, you're going to get a much better chipset. You're going to get all of the Galaxy AI features. So, I mean, this is the full suite of Galaxy AI features. I'm not talking about just
$562, by the way.
There you go. There you go. You know what I mean? It just, from that perspective, as I said, if you look at it in isolation, it's not a bad offering. You look at the wider, bigger picture of what's available right now. It's just like, now this makes it a tough sell, right? You've got wireless charging. You've got all of these things that you've got on a proper flagship device, right? Yes, it's last year's, but then when you like that's my point though. It's like that makes it a tough sell for me.
So this begs the question, right? And maybe this is why this kind of leads to something Apple does every year. Should Samsung not release another A series and thereby just focus on bringing new colors or refreshing the excitement for last year's model? Because Apple does
So,
this with the iPhone, right? They give us they didn't do it this year, but they give us a color in spring
yeah,
for the iPhone.
I think so. So now this is the thing. That's a possibility, but I think a regular consumer is not the target market for this. I think they are very heavily targeting B2B customers with this device, right? Because if you're going to be buying, you're going to get higher discounts if you are a B2B customer. You're going to be buying maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 units, maybe more, multiple hundreds of units, right? From Samsung. And if you're doing that and you're going to be getting 6 years of software support, which you're not going to get with many of the devices, you're going to have to buy directly from Samsung. You can't just go into Amazon. If you've worked in a business before, it's like a whole headache. You need a supplier and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what their aim is. That's what they're going for. They're like, okay, let's target the B2B customers. And that's why they're offering this software support. So if you're if you're an employer who wants to get Samsung, you've got Knox, you've got all of this stuff. And especially with some of the controversy with the iCloud services with Apple recently,
Yeah.
in the UK in particular, I think this is a perfect steal for Samsung to come in and say, hey, forget the iPhone 16e, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. Here's a better offering, which we're going to give you a better deal on, and you're going to get this much support.
Yeah, I agree. I think with that notion, it makes sense. I think for the regular consumer, there are options, whether you going, previous year or even some of the other phones we mentioned, like the, Nothing 3A Pro, the OnePlus. There's many options to battle with on the regular consumer side. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, so that's the A36 and A56. I mean, good offerings in isolation, but there's lots of other things out there. Right, iPhone 16e. This is the cheapest new iPhone you can buy with Apple Intelligence. If I kind of put it in a nutshell, the iPhone 16e is an iPhone 14 with the A18 chip and a single camera. Summary, would you agree?
Yes, it's
Okay.
Tim Cook operations at its best.
Peak operations. Look, it comes in black and white. They've kept it very simple there. So the only way you can customize it is with a bunch of cases, which I think is fine, right? It's obviously got the IP68. the display, to me, I said this in my review, looks very outdated. It's a 6.1-inch OLED display, still 60 hertz. It's funny. I knew people were going to complain about it. It's like, yeah, but the iPhone 16 has 60 hertz. Why would the 16e have anything more, right?
I know,
It's
right?
still got that notch. It's still got that notch, man. Like, the dynamic island I really like. It's a refreshed, updated design. The notch is kind of like they've had that from the iPhone 10, right? So this is like really going back in time. It's like the Wayback Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Any geeks out there that would know about that, right? Camera is very good, but it's a single camera. Okay, camera is very good, does a good job for most scenarios for video as well, but it's a single camera. You don't have an ultra wide. Okay, now we were just talking about the A56 has an ultra wide camera at low price. Okay, I think the biggest thing it's got going for it was two things I would say. Firstly, obviously the A18 chip. So performance-wise, if we do compare it to something like the A56, and we're just going to throw it out, it's just going to completely destroy it in terms of performance, right? Because you have the A18, that's a flagship chip, and that's something that's really got it going for it. That will mean it's going to be compatible with Apple Intelligence, right? I'm not sure how much that's going to matter to you right now. But also the other selling point is the Apple C1 modem, right? Now, this is the most power efficient modem on any iPhone. That means you're just going to get better battery life. It's also got a bigger battery compared to the iPhone 16. So you're going to get better battery life compared to the iPhone 16. It's got Qi wireless charging, no MagSafe, right? And the price, £599 or $599 for 128 gigabytes, okay? I think had this been priced at what it was rumored, £500 or $500, I think that would have been reasonable. I think this is something that a lot of people it would be very easy for people to recommend. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's a reasonable price. You're like, you know what, I'm getting the latest chip. Yes, it's an outdated design. Yes, it's still got the single camera. Yes, it's not got MagSafe, but it's £500. Fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
$550. Okay. Still, I think, you know what, $550, okay, I'll let them off. Okay, fair enough. It's got the A18, it's a flagship chip. I'm gonna let them off. But $600, I think, is a push, man.
Oh, I agree. I think so. One of the things with the device is I was trying to justify where I would put it, especially on my trip to Tokyo and using the device there. And the biggest glaring feature was the ultra-wide camera. We were out with Sony. They took us to a lot of cultural things. And, I'm recording a video. I'm like, I wish I had ultra-wide right now. Because you want to capture everything you're seeing, right? You want to capture as much
Yep.
as possible. And, we're walking around the city and, Tokyo has a lot of lights, a lot of things going on. So I really felt like I was watching a film where something was cut off from either side
Yep.
in that. I think with the camera too, I'm not totally sold on the camera. I know the camera is good, but after even watching some of my content back again, I'm like, it doesn't feel like the 16 series camera to me. There's just something slightly off about it, which maybe it was just my device, but it's still fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I felt it was slightly off. And I think also, again, you're right with the price point. Looking at it at $500, steal. Absolutely. It will feel like the MacBook Air once we get to that, we discuss that, device, right? This, on the other hand, for a lot of people, you're just leaning more back to the 16 or the 16 Plus or any of those devices. And in the US, the bigger question is most people buy their devices through carriers, right? In the US. And usually the difference between, I think that myself and Hayato, we calculated the difference between a regular 16 and the Pro Max is like $15 extra difference, right? Something
Okay,
like
a
that.
month.
So you're going like, maybe I'll just do that and like get myself a better device. You don't have to go to a Pro, but you could probably get yourself a Plus, or maybe you just want the base Pro instead of like the 16 Pro Max. So it's just too close in pricing for me to justify it. I agree with you. $550 is the highest I would have pushed it, but not 600.
I've also noticed that I've seen more advertising for the 16E than any other Apple device, right? Every time I'm on TikTok, boom, 16E advert, right? I'm seeing a lot more. So they seem to be pushing it a lot more as well, which is interesting.
Well, it's got better margins. It's old. It's an old
All parts. Yeah, it's all
parts,
parts,
right?
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that I think it's a missed trick that it could have been very, very popular. We were actually just buying we were going to buy the iPhone 16e for a family member. And then when the price came out, it's like, you know what? We'll just get the iPhone 13. It's fine. Because it's like, yes, you're going to get the longer support and stuff. But for a lot of users who get the iPhone 16e, in my experience, from the people I've seen, it's usually youngsters. So like, you're gonna get the first iPhone for your kid. They're gonna start going to school. All right, you don't want to be spending £1,000 or even £800. All right, you know what, 500 is a lot more reasonable. We'll get you that. So you have a phone to stay in touch with school. You've got iPhone, so you're part of the ecosystem. We can AirDrop. You can use Find My. All of these things that help being a part of if your family's on the Apple ecosystem. And it's just, I don't know, just that price just kind of, I think, just throws it off completely.
Yeah, I would agree. To me, the 550 would have made more sense because you would see better deals from, occasional deals for like, some holiday where it's just $50 off and you're getting it for $500, right? That to me made the most sense. But at 600, it just doesn't play well on either side of the market, whether it be on the Apple ecosystem or anyone who's just looking for a good budget smartphone. Like it doesn't really fit into that
Yeah.
ecosystem either. So I mean, we'll
I
see.
think a
We'll
lot
see
of
what happens.
I think a lot of people will either be opting for the iPhone 13 or the iPhone 14 because yes, you don't get the A18 chip, right? You don't
Mhm.
get Apple Intelligence, but you get a fully functioning phone with the same display and you get an ultra-wide camera. You know what I mean? So in a sense, getting that ultra-wide camera is a bonus because a lot of people, honestly, like, another target market is like older people, right? So if you've
Yeah.
got a grandma or something, you want to get an iPhone, yeah, they can FaceTime everybody. They're going to know it's a simple to use phone. It's going to last them a while. A lot of them would have probably been on the iPhone SE, right? One of the generations of the iPhone SE. Brilliant, right? But now with this price, you know what? I'll just get an iPhone 13 or an iPhone 14. It'll be much
Oh,
cheaper.
check this out. You just mentioned that pricing wise, the iPhone 13 renewed, 365. The iPhone 14 is 439. The iPhone 14 Plus is 419. At least the lowest I've seen, and the iPhone 14 Pro,
Yep.
489.
There you go.
So you could go
So
to a
this is the
Pro.
thing. I mean, Marquez kind of argued in his video that for 600, you could get an iPhone 15 Pro with Apple Intelligence for about £600 to £700 or dollars, right? And I'm like, okay, now that's renewed, refurbished. I've had a really bad experience with with a refurbished Apple Watch recently, so I've kind of been scarred by that experience. I've sent it back, but you know, I'm sure a lot of people do have good experiences with renewed and refurbished products and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And especially if they're going to be half the price. Like, you mentioned the iPhone 13. iPhone 13 right now in the UK, refurbished, excellent condition, you're looking at about 350, right? Brand
Mhm.
new, as in brand new, out of the box, sealed, for 450, right? So it's just like, oh, mate, like this is making it a lot more difficult to justify, especially because the Apple Intelligence features that were promised are still not here. So this is the thing. It's just like, if they were fully fledged in here, you're like, oh, I can see myself using these. But you might be like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to see these or I'm going to be able to use these. You know what?
Mhm.
I'll just stick with my iPhone 13 or iPhone 14. And I think that's what's going to be happening.
That's very true.
Maybe we'll see some deals, right? Now, on the flip side, the MacBook Air M4. In my opinion, this is the best deal Apple has to offer right now. Okay? It's the world's most popular laptop, and I think it's going to be even more popular. The design is the same, but you've got a new sky blue color. It's obviously powered by the M4 chip, which means it's going to have excellent performance, very efficient as well. So it's going to have up to 18 hours of battery life. You've got a new 12 megapixel center stage camera. It can now support 2 external displays with the MacBook Air display. The previous generation, you could have 2 external displays, but only with the lid closed. It now comes with 16 gigabytes of unified memory instead of 8 gigabytes. Before, you had to pay 200 extra pounds for this, and it's got a lower starting price. Apple don't usually lower the prices, but we have a lower starting price of £999 or $999. And if you're a student, you could get an extra $100 off, $899 or £899. You know what? Just stop, pause this video and just buy it already. Just buy it. It's honestly, I genuinely mean this. This is people are gonna say sponsored by Apple, but this is genuinely one of the best deals that I've seen from Apple in recent times. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a well priced deal. I called it, or in my hands on, I called it this is a tariff safe device. I'm in the U.S. We have on and off tariffs currently at the moment, but at least I believe there is a 10% tariff on anything coming from China. And what that means, just to quickly explain to some people, is that it's whatever is produced there. So the at least I believe the MacBook is, and so or some parts of the MacBook are. So coming in, they should be a 10% tariff, which Apple is paying. Now, Apple decided not to include that into the price point and instead went lower in price, which to me is quite impressive. And then also, as Saf mentioned, you're getting it for $899. In terms of the difference between this device and say the M3 variant that we had, in terms of hardware look, it looks the same. Like there's no difference with the chassis look or anything like that, which is fine. And honestly, you don't need to necessarily change it that much, which also helps them keep the cost down as well.
Yep.
But the fact that Apple chose this device to really drop things down in terms of like delivering something for consumers to go like, hey, you know what? It might be a little tough for you guys. So
Mm.
here's $100 off already without you even thinking about it. To me, it's great. And it's a solid device overall, just from what we've seen. I just showed you mine. I'm still testing it. But what we've seen from what Apple has done with the M series, especially in the Air, it's really good. I think this is probably the point where I would say it's worth jumping from an M2 or even an M1, because I know a lot of people on M1s. I know a ton of people on
Yeah.
M1s. So I think
Yeah.
it's worth making that jump. And not for Apple Intelligence. Forget that. I'm not even going to put that into the conversation. I would say one for battery life, because it's much better than the M1, but also again for the fact that you can get it in a 13 and the 15. So you've got some size variation here as well
Mm.
for you. So honestly, great deal.
Great deal. And this is the thing. I just can't emphasize the fact that Apple never lowers their prices, right? So this is actually something new. It's like, what? They've lowered the prices. But then I think the key thing is because I was looking back at my video of the M3 MacBook Air and I was saying I would recommend spending the extra money and going for the 16 gigabytes of unified memory because you can't upgrade it later on, right? So if you're going to be keeping this laptop, I'd say people generally keep their laptops at least 4 to 5 years, right? You
Mhm.
don't want to be kind of like, oh man, like, just you want enough unified memory. So I usually advise people if you're getting it, it's like, look, I know it's £200 more, but I would just say get the 16 because you need 16 gigabytes. And to be fair, they should have done that last year, okay? But they were charging £200 extra for that last year. So now if we compare last year's model, right, 1100 plus 200, 1300. So
Mhm.
technically, what you're getting right now is 300 less. All right.
Yes.
So this is the thing. I can just imagine the comments, man. People are going to be hating us. They're like, these
I
Apple
know.
fanboys is going. But
No,
honestly, like, it is a very good deal. Now, there are other, obviously, Windows alternatives and stuff like that. But in terms of the fact that this is the world's most popular laptop, right? I think it's going to sell like hotcakes.
yeah, I think it would do well, but I don't think it will sell like hotcakes. I said this a while back. I think Apple is facing true diminishing returns because of how good the M1 was. They seriously have hampered themselves in such a weird luck where their success, because I know people who have M1s and they, have friends who reached out and are like, oh, that's really nice. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, I don't think I need to upgrade just because again,
It's
do,
what?
do
It
I,
works.
it works well. Do I need to? No, there's no slowdowns. This is not the days of the Intel MacBooks where like you had those palpitations. You're like, maybe I should start, 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 start
Your
thinking of
watch is like,
changing.
what's going on?
Yeah,
We detected irregular heartbeat.
exactly. You're not in that era anymore. So I think it's going to be
uh,
quite interesting to see how well it does. Plus, maybe this is also some of that operational things of like we've had the same chassis for 3 years on the Air, right? So
Hmm.
it costs less there. The biggest change here really is the chip and the camera, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe they can actually afford to actually put it down. Plus, remember that M chip also is in iPads as well, iPads Pros. So
Hmm.
there's a cost benefit that's spread across that Apple's like, you know what, let's pass it on to the consumer, which is great. Again, Safa said they are Windows alternatives, whether it's from Intel or AMD, that are really solid. But we're talking about, one of the best-selling laptops there, a laptop that also changed the way laptops were perceived. Remember, the MacBook Air with the M1 changed the way we look at laptops now as a whole.
100%.
Yeah, so it's really impressive to see that. And I think, even though some of you might go like, these guys are just fanboying. Just remember, I am a PC head through and through, completely.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so it's
So
just
there you
one
go.
of those
You've
things.
heard it from the man himself, right? A PC man. This is a great deal, and I still I think you're right that Apple kind of shot themselves in the foot because they did so well with the M series that people with the M1, they're like, I can go to the M6, M7. Keep going, keep going. This is fine. It's doing me fine, right? And especially if you look at the user, right? The M1 user
Yeah.
is generally somebody who's needs that battery life, is going to be using is not necessarily, you've got Apple Intelligence as well. So if we do want to go there to Apple Intelligence, all M series chip supports it, right? So you don't like thinking, what else am I going to get from this, right? Is it really worth it for me? But for new customers, this is the thing. And if somebody's on an Intel one, you're still kind of on the fence, like, do I still need it? Boom. This is the one. If you're thinking of getting a new laptop, if you're thinking of upgrading one of your older laptops, I think this is a very good deal right now, and I'm actually surprised that Apple are offering this.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right, the final thing we're going to be talking about is the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. This thing looks like an absolute beast. Snapdragon 8 Elite. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM with a base of 512 gigabytes of storage, which is insane. So it's coming to the base. 6.73-inch AMOLED display, and obviously 120 hertz. It's got a very interesting camera setup. So you've got a 50 megapixel 1-inch sensor, which is a Leica 23 millimeters. It's got a 200 megapixel ultra telephoto camera. It's got a 50 megapixel floating telephoto, and it's got another Leica 50 megapixel ultra wide camera. I mean, absolutely stacked. Like, this is more of a camera that's attached onto a phone rather than a phone with a camera. It's like absolute beast. But I don't have one. Xiaomi, come on. What did I
Sorry,
do?
sorry, buddy.
you know,
Fall.
I'm like, you know what? Like, I've got so many people like messaging me like, Saf, why have you not covered the 15 Ultra? I was like, bro, they didn't send me one. It's like, by the time I buy one and it comes to me, right? It's like, it's going to be weeks, right? So I was like, come on, Xiaomi. Why? You're going to
Hope,
get free coverage. You're going to get, hopefully hundreds of thousands of views, right? For free. Just send me the device, man. What the hell?
I
People are going to be
intercepted your
like, look at,
device.
I can already hear the comments. People are like, oh yeah, this guy just can't go buy his own devices. Bro, I don't think you understand. I can go and buy it, but by the time I buy it, then there's already thousands of videos online, right?
Mhm.
So then it's like, okay, what do I focus on? Do I focus on something else which is gonna, get more views and it's gonna be more beneficial for me to cover? Or shall I cover something which is super late now because I wasn't sent it in time? But hey, this is just the way the things work. Anyway, you have got it, right?
Yes,
So you can just
yes.
rub it in. Initial thoughts.
So, by the way, this is Saf's device. I intercepted it on the way to his place, and I just took it with me to Tokyo, pretty much. Um, it really reminds me of the Lumia 1020 in many ways. In terms of just what they've done with the camera sensors here. I
Okay.
think for me, what I found with the device is photography. That 1-inch sensor just absolutely kills it.
Okay.
They do a really good job on imagery across the board. Even the ultra wide, the periscopic zoom as well. Some of the changes that they've done there, you could see where it was outclassing Samsung, at least in my video and what I was working on. When it comes to video, though,
Okay.
that's where again, on the Android side, Samsung has the best video, and
Okay.
it's still clear, it's still clearly there. I think it's one of those things that they can easily match, but they have to work on. They have to really spend time to work on that, on that kind of specifics. Battery life is great on here. I think it's like 5400 milliamps,
Yeah,
if I recall.
5400,
And it's the
5410.
silicon carbide battery. So it
Carbon,
does.
silicon carbon battery.
Is it carbon or carbide?
So silicon carbide batteries, this is something that Marquez, it's been funny because I saw like a discussion on Twitter as well. Because I kept hearing Marquez say silicon carbide, right? And I was like, bro, I'm sure it's silicon carbon because silicon carbide batteries are what you have in cars, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that those are vehicle EV, that's silicon carbide. Silicon carbon is what you have on let's blame Marquez for actually making it common and telling everybody it's silicon carbide and confusing the world. Damn you,
Yeah.
Marquez.
I mean, so it's silicon carbon batteries, which are newer, not newer, but basically, the new Raven batteries for smartphone, which is why you see larger battery size, still keeping the same thickness. So the phone may look thick because of the hump, but really isn't that thick in general. Doesn't feel as heavy as you would think it would be. Overall, functions really well. And then one of the cool things, of course, is that we also got this camera case that comes with it
Okay.
that works out pretty well. Kind of again reminds me of the Lumiere, um, you know, 1020 here. But you have full functionality across the buttons. You can map it. It's got an extra 2000 milliamps as well. So if you're shooting a lot that day, you've got at least enough. You've got 7400 milliamp battery with you on the road, which is great. So I mean, I think Xiaomi really spent time to try and show the world that, look, yes, we can make foldables and stuff like that, but we really want to come and showcase that we can do a good job where it counts on a traditional smartphone. And I think they nailed it. Like, yeah, everything's perfect. They still need to work on video. They've got really good fast charging though. 90-watt fast charging, 80-watt wireless charging, which Samsung, Apple, come on, guys. Like,
Come on. When are
this
you
is
gonna catch up?
this is disgraceful. It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, a solid device, and it really takes that name Ultra this year. I think it really puts a stamp on what an Ultra device actually means.
Okay, here's a question. Cameras, right? This
Mhm.
or the Vivo X200 Pro?
I don't
Oh, that
know.
was a long pause. That was a long pause.
I don't know. I actually, you know what? Thank you for doing that. You know what? I think I'll make a video. I think I'll do that because I
There
really
you go.
haven't actually thought of both of them. And damn.
Because this is the thing. That's the kind of that got a lot of, because of its large sensor size, the natural bokeh that you get, and all of this. That's really kind of got the headlines. But I mean, with the Xiaomi, they don't have the variable aperture anymore on the primary camera,
No.
so that's quite interesting. That's an interesting decision that they went with there. From what I'm seeing, from like I was watching Tom's video earlier, and he was saying that it's not good at capturing motion. So
Yes.
if there are
It's
too
just
many
a bit
moving
off there.
subjects, so it's good for like static shots. But then if there's too much motion, the zoom's really good, especially 200 megapixels. It does seem like an all-round package. Obviously, it's not perfect. I'm waiting to get my hands on it. I'll be sharing more of my thoughts when I do have it, and let's see if it's worth doing a camera comparison at that time.
Mhm.
But it's been a busy, dude. It's been a busy couple of months already, hasn't it?
No, dude, it absolutely has been busy. The funny thing is I had like some long-term videos that I have done and I was planning to do that I can't even post just because
Yeah,
I have other stuff that I am doing right now.
yeah.
Just because there's so much stuff releasing. We know that there's gonna be a Pixel 9a coming down the line really soon.
Man.
There's who knows what else. Oh, yes, Samsung also is releasing the Edge at some point. It's gonna be before the foldable. There's gonna be a triple fold this year from Samsung. So
Apple's gonna be doing the iPhone Air. I don't know if they're gonna wait till September to do that, or they're gonna be releasing that a little bit earlier. Who
yeah,
knows,
yeah,
man? It's just
exactly,
back to
right.
back.
So
It's a it's a
actually
busy year.
maybe no, I think they will announce it with the iPhone, but I think it will launch after, that like
Yeah.
later timeline type thing. But yeah, it's going to be it's for smartphones. It's a very busy year, and I think the
Mm,
other part is for laptops and
mm,
PCs. It's going to be also a very busy year. We had AMD launch the Strix Halo. Now, the Strix Halo as a processor is a beast. It doesn't have the great battery life that we have, but for a integrated graphics chip to match a 4070 from NVIDIA,
mm.
is insane. And that's running on battery, not plugged in. So there's that as well. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun year. Hopefully, people can afford to buy some of these devices, is all I can say.
It's like with all these tariffs and stuff, you're gonna see all of these new devices. Like, actually, no, I can't be buying these right now.
Yeah.
Man, it's an interesting time. But that's all we have time for. That's been episode 45 of the SuperSaf Speaks podcast. As always, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more like it, then do consider subscribing on YouTube. We are at SuperSaf Speaks. And also, we're on social media. We've been posting lots of new clips. They've been doing really well on TikTok, Instagram, or Shorts, YouTube Shorts. You can find us everywhere. And of course, you can find us on your favorite podcasting platforms. Do drop us a rating. It will help push this out to more people. I'm your host, SuperSaf, with my co-host,
Thunder E from Borderwork.
on SuperSaf Speaks, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.